6 candidates take the stage tonight in the first Democratic primary debate of 2020. It's happening at Drake University in Iowa.
And Fox News political reporter Paul Steinhauser is in the Hawkeye State for that big event. He joins us live via Skype for a preview of what we can expect tonight. New Hampshire guy there in Iowa. Great to see you, Paul.
Yeah, people are seeing me, looking at me and going, wait, are we in New Hampshire or Iowa? Because I don't get out of 603 that often. But
I'm sure you are confusing some of those candidates.
Well, I wanted to start with the nominal frontrunner in the race, Joe Biden. You were at an event for him last night, and you got a little bit of sound. Let's take a listen.
I think we're going to do well here in Iowa. It's because of you. People are beginning to make up their minds now, and this is a critical moment. All the polling data that I've read and seen is all, it's a toss-up. The latest moment poll out has me ahead now, but they're all close. This is a real toss-up. And the last couple weeks here makes a gigantic difference.
So, yeah, he's right. Polls are close. But one of the questions for him is always energy and enthusiasm. What was the energy like for him on the ground?
Listen, you're never going to get a crazy, energetic Joe Biden, and that was the case at this event. It was a field office in Des Moines, not too far from the airport. He was also touting his new endorsement of the longtime Attorney General in Iowa. He's happy about the Monmouth poll, but as you saw there, he was tempering. It is very close here. Expect Joe Biden, as he has at every debate dating back to last June when they started, come under the spotlight to get some attacks. I would assume you'll see Bernie Sanders lambast the former vice president over his Iraq war vote way back in 2002 when he greenlighted the Iraq war. And also, I think Sanders will attack Biden over Social Security and past attempts by then Senator and then Vice President Biden to trim Social Security, a stance he no longer agrees with.
Right. And so, Paul, you have not seen Biden really address the substance of these Iraq war comments. He sent John Kerry out on Face the Nation in order to respond. But Biden himself, I think the last time he addressed this, he just said, I'm not going to get in a fight with Bernie, or that he would invite Bernie to the White House for dessert. So can we expect him tonight in order to have to answer for that if Sanders is going to hit him?
Yeah, the Biden camp needs to have a good storyline for the former vice president, because he has been kind of all over the map when it comes to that vote, and whether he was in support of the war or wasn't in support of the war, whether he gave a green light for then President George W. Bush, and later, of course, came to regret it. So yeah, he needs to have a firm answer tonight explaining why he voted in 2002 the way he did, to try to put this to rest. Otherwise, it's going to continue to come up, as it has been dating back to last summer.
Well, and clearly the Sanders team, they were gearing up to take the gloves off versus Biden. Bernie Sanders himself was making the case last week. Nina Turner, campaign co-chair, published an op-ed going after him on his record on race. Another op-ed out about his Iraq war vote. So clearly this was the fight the Sanders campaign wanted to have. Now they have another fight on their hands, though, with Elizabeth Warren going out and leaking the contents of this private conversation, accusing Bernie, I think in a very nasty way, of being a sexist when there's no way to validate or verify what was actually said in that room. But he's going to have to deal with that on the stage tonight as well.
Yeah, we've had two fistfights now over the last 40 hours between the two campaigns. The one you mentioned, which is the bigger of the two, the second of the two, but also these Sanders talking points that were leaked, that they were giving to their volunteers to basically portray Elizabeth Warren as a candidate of the rich and somebody who couldn't expand the base of the party. So this kind of salvos back and forth between the two candidates could dominate tonight's debate. And you're right, when specifically on the charges of sexism, that's something that could be very detrimental to Sanders. It's something he's been fighting a long time. Remember, even before he jumped into the campaign, there was that controversy from his 2016 bid to the White House of sexual harassment charges against some of the males in the campaign. This is a tender issue for progressives. You're seeing a lot of top progressive organizations pleading with the two candidates in their campaigns for another ceasefire. They had a ceasefire for almost a year. It is definitely over. The gloves are now off.
Yeah, it definitely is. So, Paul, as your sense of somebody on the ground, do you think something like this would actually land? You've spent so much time with voters in New Hampshire. Is this going to backfire against Elizabeth Warren?
Voters mostly don't care about this kind of stuff, right? We in the media obsess about it, make the headlines. Honestly, when you talk to most voters, they want to know about the issues. They want to know how this candidate or that candidate is going to improve their lives. That said, in a very close contest, and that's what the polls indicate right now, with just, 2 weeks and 6 days until Iowa, 4 weeks right now from New Hampshire. Any little thing like this would make a difference in a race that is so close.
And the candidate we haven't mentioned who's also been polling well in Iowa and coming up in New Hampshire too is Mayor Pete. He's kind of left to the side of all these different disputes. Is that a good thing for him, or does he need to make his presence felt on that stage tonight as well?
It may give him an opportunity to be the peacemaker. Remember, that was something that Kamala Harris once tried to do, and Amy Klobuchar as well in past debates. You know, as these candidates, as Sanders, Warren, and Biden maybe go after each other, it makes Buttigieg look a little bit above the fray. The problem is, though, if he doesn't get enough attention during the debate, if the minutes aren't there, that's an issue for Buttigieg. I've also seen his poll numbers, which were soaring for about 2 or 3 months now. We've seen a slight deterioration in the last week or two in some of the most recent polls for Buttigieg. And he still has that issue with African-American voters. Not a problem in Iowa or New Hampshire, but when the calendar moves beyond those two states, then it's a real big problem.
You know, it can be a problem, though, for voters who are concerned about electability and whether you're actually going to be able to go the distance, too, Sagar.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And another thing I wanted to get your take on, Paul, we've been talking about here this morning, is that the Senate impeachment trial is likely to start on January 21st. If it lasts 2 weeks, it's going to take you all the way through the Iowa caucuses. How much of a detriment to the senators in the race is that going to be, not being able to be on the ground?
That is an issue. I spoke with Elizabeth Warren on Friday when she was in New Hampshire, and she lamented that getting her off the campaign trail and not being able to speak person to person with voters in New Hampshire, as well as Iowa and the other early voting states. Yeah, it's going to be an advantage for Biden, Buttigieg, and the rest of the candidates who aren't going to be locked in that Senate chamber 6 days a week.
Indeed. All right, Paul, great to see you.
Thank you,
Have fun
Paul.
out there.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Next up on Rising, Iowa House candidate J.D. Scholten is going to make his case to replace Steve King in the 4th district there, very rural part of the state. That is next.